What's up, everybody? This is Rasan71. I want to talk about whooping your kids and how it's a slave mentality. When you really look at the gist of it, really, did we have to whoop our kids prior to slavery? You know, with when you have people who have I forget what they call it, but you know, when the slaves were writing out how they were treated in Africa versus how they were treated in America. I forget what they call it, but anyway, you know, I'm pretty sure back then, prior to slavery, we didn't do much of that. You know, and nowadays it's common for black folks to talk about whooping their kids. Every time you know, it don't matter if well, it does matter, but if you grow up where typically black people grow up, you know, which is in the hood, you always hear about some woman talking about she gonna whoop his ass and she gonna whoop your ass. Now, I've had, you know, my mother has done that to me. Of course she has. She didn't do it to the last 4. But she did it to the first 3. And you gotta excuse me, a semi truck just pulled like out of nowhere. And where he's at, it ain't really enough room. But anyway, when my mother whooped me, I developed a hatred for her. I hated her. And there are many ways to have that same effect without whooping your children. And to be honest with you, if you look at most communities besides the quote-unquote black community, they don't too much whoop their kids. And their kids seem to be very productive. Don't give me this nonsense about serial killers, this, that, and the third. Look, every white person ain't out here serial killing. And you have had black serial killers too. So look, let's not go there. And serial rapists. All of that. But anyway. It's not, I'm trying to compare black to white, but you know, the whooping your kids, it can have a bad psychological, actually it does. It has a bad psychological effect on children. You know, I'm not an expert on it, but I've seen it. And I'll give you an example. And any kind of physical punishment for doing something, because our teachers used to take the ruler and slap our hands. It's still violent. You didn't have to do that. You know, there's other ways to do things. Like meaning what you say when you say it, period, point blank. You don't have to threaten. But there was this teacher I had named Miss Onrod. And I was in the first grade, and this is when they started teaching you how to write. And she was an old woman. She was about 87, 88, something like that. And I was in the first grade, and now, you know, I'll be 46 this year. And I believe in the first grade, you're like 5 or 6 years old, something like that. I believe, you know, whatever the age, or maybe 7. I mean, I don't know. I ain't doing the math. I believe it was around 5 or 6. But anyway, I didn't start school late. I started at the right time and all this other stuff. Anyway, that old woman, she saw me starting to write with my left hand. Naturally. She came to me while I was writing. She smashed my hand down hard. Now, mind you, I'm just a 5-year-old kid. I remember this like photographic. And she scratched it. She snatched up the pencil, stuck it in my right hand, and forced me to write with that hand. My handwriting has been sloppy ever since. It's hard for me to write with my right hand. But the point is that she felt the need to inflict some kind of pain on me to make sure I demonize this hand. And from what I heard, when you do that to a child, it affects their thinking for the rest of their lives. And I believe it does have an effect on me in certain ways. I mean, not to the degree to where I'm like, ugh, but you know, like just things that I see that I know I could do, but I haven't. It's like, yo, I just can't grasp it. You know what I mean? And I know that has something to do with it, you know, because I never, you know, school was not my thing after that point. I was never really into school. It's like school became something I didn't want to be because of that first impression of it. You see what they say about first impressions. But anyway, you know, I wanted no part of it. But that right there is my point. You know, you inflicting a punishment on somebody to get a result when I say 99.9% of the time that result is gonna affect that person in some way, in a negative way, to where it's not good. You basically you're forming a defect within that human being. So I would ask, especially black people, mainly black people, all black people, before you go to whooping your kids, think about that slave mentality. And I mean really think about it. Stop being little punks and saying that, oh, well, that was back in the day. This is now. Kids are different. Really? Well, tell that to my little nephews and nieces. They kids. They ain't doing that shit. They ain't doing nothing bad. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to go at them like that. You know what I'm saying? I went at their mothers and fathers like that, my brothers and sisters. Hey, yo, look here. This is what you're going to do. I don't have to do that with them because they learn from me that you don't have to whoop. So they didn't whoop their kids, and they don't have to whoop. See, I changed that dynamic. That's all it takes. We all got to do our part. But anyway, stop thinking whoop first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You don't have to whoop at all. This is Rasan 71. Catch y'all later.